I went to Africa for the first time about 10 or 12 years ago, and I was struck then, as everyone always is when they're wandering around in the bush there, how important an impulse territory is, even more than shelter or food or sex. I think everywhere you go, there's something's marking its territory, whether it's a dung midden or urine or something or other, or scraping something off a tree or putting something on a tree. You can see the whole pattern of life in Africa in a way that is much more intense, I think, probably than anywhere else. And it didn't seem a million miles to me, having observed that, to remember and note human behaviour, everything from neighbours fighting over an overhanging branch over the fence to Bosnia or Vietnam or whatever. It just seemed to be a natural, well, you know, it seems as if we were all really animals, and we just have always got to be master of our own area. And that got me thinking about territory in my own country, and that then got me thinking about where we came from and what territory sort of meant on a huge nationwide scale. And then that then got me thinking about territory on the most intimate scale, which would be if someone was actually usurping your airspace or your home space, like in other words, a stalker. At one stage, Philip Ruddock, who was the minister, produced a video which showed all the vicious, toothy things that could kill you in Australia, especially watery ones like great whites and crocodiles and stuff. It was like a reverse travelogue. It was like anyone who comes here is sort of crazy. And this went out through the embassies in the Middle East and South Asia and stuff. Yeah. It was just sort of so hilariously. You wonder how there's any people left in Australia because they're just being constantly set upon by all these vicious sort of creatures.
The book almost is a film, or it's the main character sees life through movies, and to a certain extent she finds herself in a movie in her own life. And you know, you quite openly refer to movies, and we feel that's part of the fun of the book.
Yeah. And when I was writing it, I was actually seeing it as scenes too.
Yeah, right.
I was seeing it in a very visual way.
Which is probably the other thing that struck me with you, because if I'm reading something, you start to visualise it, and then I start getting excited. Going, okay, actually, I could start to visualise this and to actually see the story being presented. So I think that's probably the case as well, because the descriptions are so evocative, and the dialogue is actually so rich in as well. In fact,
yeah. I mean,
and you were able to grab hold.
I absolutely did. I mean, I've done quite a few adaptations of books and stories, you know, over the years. It's become a bit of my shtick, actually. But in many cases, there's not a single word of the original that ends up in the adaptation. It's literally, I'll take the story and the characters, and even if I'm faithful to the story and the characters, it'll end up being completely, I'll put the book away and write something new. With Grace, I make no bones about the fact that a lot of what I'd say 50% probably of what you hear on the stage is in the book.
Well, I'm absolutely honest. I really enjoyed it. It's not the usual trepidation that when you've written, because I was a stage removed from it, so I didn't feel responsible for it. And I had my lines worked out. Like, if I didn't like it, I was going to say, yes, very interesting.
It's always the right answer.
But I did like it. But I wholeheartedly liked it. I really did like it. Robert Altman movies, Nashville, that I made reference to, and Shortcuts and things, where I very much admired the way he used to. Well, you could have four things going on at once. Yeah, split screen. This is like a split screen, wasn't it? Really? Yeah. When you've got things happening. Yeah. 3 or 4 things happening at once.
Yeah, well, we tried to. That's right. I mean, and that again, something that I guess the three of us share is also my inspiration to go. And a lot of the work that's always appealed to me. And maybe I get bored with a single story, but when there's a few stories and a few different characters interacting, this kind of keeps you absolutely active all the time, which I love. So I loved that possibility to go, okay, well, what happens if we kind of keep that story going, and then we float that one under, and then we float that one under there, and just have a few times where you can keep them all riding together, and that helps us feel like it's one work, I guess, as well.
There were more I think they worked, but there were more flashbacks in that than I've seen on stage before.
Mm.
I mean, you only hear, the only audience response you ever hear is in response to a joke, because otherwise they're silent.
They're just there,
And that's a terrific feeling. I find it wonderful. And you can see why comedians like doing it. You can see why stand-ups people like doing it. Getting that immediate sort of hit of applause or laughter or whatever is really quite, it's very, it really touches you. So the couple of scenes that you had were very, very funny, and I really enjoyed them.